I was out of breath. It took me a lot of exertion just to do simple tasks, and something wasn't right.
A passion for building runs in Chris Johnson's family. He follows a long line of masons and welders and likes the skill of laying bricks and blocks. Just over a decade ago, doctors diagnosed him with silicosis, permanent damage to the lungs that's linked to a range of diseases including lung cancer. It can also kill you.
After every time I got done cutting, you'd have stuff up in your nostrils that you blow out.
The standard white face mask didn't protect Johnson from inhaling large amounts of silica. The tiny white dust particles are found anywhere there's sand, brick, or mortar. In fact, most rocks have silica in them. It fills the air on dusty construction sites while workers breathe it in. Johnson had been working for contractors to restore buildings across upstate New York. When he was 29, he signed on for a rather big job. Brick by brick, he helped change the face of a pair of high-rise apartment buildings in Rome, New York.
There's a lot of dust. It was a tremendous amount of dust, and everything we did was pretty much out of man baskets, so you're in the air, so you're pretty much stuck right there.
Dr. Bill Beckett was Johnson's physician. He's treated about 30 patients with silicosis in his career.
He had a test called bronchoscopy, which is a test to take a small bit of tissue of the lung to find out what's causing it. And as a complication of that test, his lung collapsed.
1935, a wave of fear was sweeping the country. Silicosis was taking its toll from the ranks of American workers.
It's been over 80 years since the U.S. Department of Labor launched a national campaign to help stop the spread of it.
These men are exposed to a serious silica hazard. Imagine breathing quantities of dust like this, 8 hours a day, day after day.
According to the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, there are still 1,600 new cases of silicosis every year and around 100 fatalities. On any given day, OSHA estimates that nearly 650,000 construction workers are breathing air that exceeds the permissible exposure limit it once passed into law.
This is called a cyclone. In other words, when the air goes in this hole, it's actually a cyclone effect where all the heavy chunks fall to the bottom. In the respirable, these are the tiny, minute particles that cause illness. They're attached to the filter.
Gene DeNike's environmental consulting company in Rochester supplies construction employers with these personal pumps for air monitoring. Workers strap it on for a full shift, and in the course of one day, they'll know how much silica is flying around the site.
Say we have guys grinding up the thruway and they're going through the asphalt and cement, that sort of thing. You have the driver of the vehicle, you have the guys in the back shoveling. Every single task could create some sort of exposure, and you want to monitor for every type of exposure so that you've got all your bases covered.
We'll review what we're going to do next.
Dr. Jake Lyons says even low-tech solutions prevent onset of the disease.
You can wet down the stone so that the level of dust that gets in the air, the friable dust, is minimized. You can use vacuums. I couldn't imagine wearing that mask with the same degree of protection that these guys are supposed to be wearing for 8 hours a day.
While DeNike's air monitoring business has been picking up, she says some employers still aren't taking the threat of silicosis seriously enough. And there's pushback from some parts of the construction industry who say the rules will result in additional costs for employers and a loss of jobs.
It's all about the money, basically. If you're just tearing up a road, it doesn't matter. But when you're inside a building and you want to use water, there's so many other environmental controls, engineering controls you need. You have to catch the water, you have to clean up the water. This all adds to the price of getting the job done.
OSHA officials say they're committed to getting the new exposure levels for silica passed before President Obama leaves office. Meanwhile, it's been 10 years since Johnson's illness began, and he still hasn't been able to work.
I tried going back to masonry, and it just didn't really pan out. A lot of the stuff that I just couldn't do it anymore. It's also tough for me to try to find a job because people, I think, are put off by my lungs being damaged.
The 40-year-old isn't expected to live past 45, but Johnson remains positive.
Just happy to be alive. That's it. I take it one day at a time.
I'm Sasha Ann Simons for the Innovation Trail.